I know Barely News is so far everybody's favorite.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to get that feedback.
But I want to I want to start doing gear stuff. But see, the problem with gear reviews is what I talked about before. It's like what works for one person doesn't work for another. Like that axe I went on and on and on about how great it was.
Oh,
Friend
from
of,
dollar store.
yeah, my friend used it and he's like, it broke on me. I'm like, well, I have like one that's just covered in mud, rust, everything because I use it all the time. It's still going strong.
Maybe that's just you get it. You get like it's a lottery when you go to the dollar store.
Yeah.
It could be a good thing. Could
Well,
be a
like
bad
the
thing.
other problem with reviews too is like so the last gear, like the back rucksack review or whatever, or not review, but when I was taking all the stuff out, somebody said like, "Oh, well, what food do you bring?" It's like, "Well, I have those packaged freeze dried foods, 30-year storage life or whatever. I've got so many different ones, and some of them are like I would eat them every day, and the other ones I'm like I have to be starving near death before I would eat this."
Mm.
But like I'm a picky eater, so it's like who knows, right?
Yeah, self-awareness. Now you're calling yourself picky.
Yeah, I resisted it for a long time, but like after everybody's like, "No, you're a picky eater." I'm like, oh, "Okay, yes, I am."
Oh,
I don't know. I
funny.
tried everything you made on the camping trip, and it was all good. So
But it wasn't that. Yeah, it wasn't a lot. It's just buckwheat, pork belly. It's delicious. It's like my favorite food. Buckwheat and pork belly. The beans are I don't like that much. I can't do beans.
yeah. Well, the next camping trip, I'm gonna bring one of those packages, and we'll cook that up.
Nice.
I'll bring two. I'll bring the ones that I think are meh, and one of the ones I think are amazing, and then you give me your opinion on them, and we'll see.
What's been going on in the world outside of Barely News? Did you have like prep things for
I
Barely
have
News?
everything prepped for Barely News. Yeah,
That's good.
there's gonna be a continuation of the cocaine hippos. I'm so excited. When I
Hippos
was
part two.
scrolling through, I was like, Pablo Escobar's hippos. I need to save this one, so I saved that one. Like the news lately has just been horrible, so miserable.
I don't
Um,
watch the news. My life has been so great.
I know. Well, man,
A lot of
like
family time.
I've had a terrible week, and I think a portion of that is just spending too much time on social media and news. Um, but no, there's some stories that I'm excited to talk about because they're gonna be funny.
Okay, we'll keep that for Barely News,
Okay.
but let's just have some things for the podcast, even if it's super short. Just brainstorming ideas, feelings about the world, ourselves.
Yeah.
What
Well,
else has been happening?
I haven't done a video. This isn't like world news or Canadian. This is me news.
Yeah.
Did a video recently about like what's been going on with me and my progress with off grid your life, and it's been
You haven't posted in a
it's
long time.
it's
What are you
been
feeling like?
I'm
How do you?
feeling like I don't want to sound so negative, but like
That's fine.
I'm having a really hard. I've been having a really hard last 2 weeks. Um, I don't know if it's just like the stress of moving, or it's a combination.
So definitely a combination
It's a
of things.
combination of so many things like moving, work. Um, I don't know. Like I have noticed though that how much of a difference waking up early and doing cardio does for my mood.
Mm.
Because the last 2 days I didn't do it because of moving, and it's like I feel like I'm missing something. Like I need
I
like
feel the
it's like a
same way.
lifeline thing.
If I wake up and don't do it, and then I keep it in my mind like I have to work out today at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But just that idea that I didn't work out
Yeah.
and it, like my blood didn't go through my body everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
It's annoying.
So yeah, I've been slow to.
It's green.
Is it green?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
yeah, I've been slow to post on off grid your life because I haven't done a ruck march in a while. I like I said, it's a combination. I've been busy, and I need to start taking your advice when it comes to like posting for off grid your life and off grid your mind. Like I need to post and then get off
Mm.
because like it's been a bad
You
week for
mean
the
you're
world.
stuck?
It's been a
Stuck
bad
in
week
it?
for the whole world, not just me. It's been a terrible, terrible week.
But that's what I kind of yeah. If you get stuck scrolling through
Mm-hmm.
things and news, it's like we make our life, we make our content, we put it out there. We're there for replying to the comments,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe like putting a limit. I kind of put a limit of how much time I scroll.
Yeah, I have
Because if you
to.
don't, it's like it you like time flies by so quickly if you
Mm-hmm.
just keep scrolling from one story to another, and then like I just didn't do anything. I
And
just
then
scrolled.
and like if you go into it already feeling bad, like so what I've been doing is like
Mm.
I've already been in a bad mood, And then I start scrolling. It's like my phone knows, it's like, oh, he's in a bad mood. Let's keep him in this mode, because then he'll just sit here and stay on his phone. And yeah, it's just been terrible news all week for the whole world, specifically United States and Canada. Like there's like been those things that happen in the United States all the time is happening, like with schools.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but then Emily
Canada,
sent me a good like post from some black guy. And he like really had good points about the guns.
Colin Noir, probably.
No,
No.
not that. It's a guy that I've never heard about him before. Like he posted the things like we have guns protecting the airport. We have guns protecting like all different organizations that we like sports fields. Like we feel fine, but there's nothing in the schools. And it to me like it sucks that it has to come that way for schools to be protected by gun. But like there is a problem, so
Yeah.
why shouldn't we do it?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. All
It's
the
like
people,
closing your eyes for
all the politicians and people that are saying like, "Oh, you really want more guns in schools?" I'm like, you are surrounded by guns right now. The only reason
Yeah.
why these politicians make all these stupid arguments, like the only reason why they're not getting punched all the time is because they're surrounded by guns.
Yeah. They're always protected.
Yeah, they say the
By
dumbest,
guns.
worst things. The only reason they're not getting their ass kicked every day is because they got guns surrounding them.
Well, basically, that's the idea of that guy's post. Was he's like everything that we don't even think about it. You go to the airport, there's always guns there. Like, there's always someone carrying a gun to protect just in case. And if schools and the U.S. has it's a problem there. You know, so like why not for the time being have more guns protecting schools?
There's so much. There's more to it though than
There's definitely like I don't think it's a solution.
because the United States, they always go on about how the United States is the only, it's pretty much the only Western country that's full of guns, but Eastern countries, they have tons of gun ownership. Like it's funny, they keep calling Belarus a dictatorship. Belarus has crazy gun ownership. I'm like, what do you mean they're under a dictatorship of what's like? This is very controversial because they're like, but I don't care. Like, how are they being dictated to and told what to do when pretty much everybody owns a gun there?
I'm not totally sure how many people own guns there, but if you
They've
heard
got
that, like
they've got crazy
I
gun
should probably
ownership.
know. My grandfather was born there.
Yeah, so it's encouraged. And then the Czech Republic, they've got they like civilians can still have full automatic weapons in there. I don't know what licensing they need, but I know that they can have those.
There's a lot of propaganda of how the rest of the world lives compared to the U.S.
Yeah, well, if you ask certain people, especially in Canada and the United States, they would probably think the United States is the only country in the world that has like, because they believe full out lies like, oh, it's easier to get a gun than a library card. Like that's the dumbest lie I've ever heard. You have to have like room temperature IQ to actually believe that.
There's also a lot of like this American dream where like people are putting America on this pedestal of like this is where you can make it, but there's a lot of people now, especially with YouTube, social media. There's a lot of people who are moving out from the U.S. and trying to live somewhere else because that's the dream. Like they are able to live more free elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
There are people. A lot of people are going to small European countries, even South America, to live there instead of the United States. I think things are changing in a weird way. And like,
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm like I'm using so much energy right now just to try and keep talking and keep things like I just
are you trying not to be negative?
yeah, I'm trying so hard. Like I just it's funny because I don't even remember when I started my first Off Good Your Life video.
It was with a rock march, wasn't it?
Yeah, and even before that, when you and I were working at the builder, like I'm starting to try. I feel like the last couple of years I've just been moving forward, trying to better myself, better my life, and then just recently, this last week, it's like it's actually become really hard. Like I thought there was some times where it was hard, but now that I'm like after those last few weeks, it's like, oh no, this is hard. All that stuff was just me slowing down.
I don't know how much you want to open up in the podcast, but we can talk about it like when we're not recording.
Well, on the last episode of Good Your Life, I admitted something that I didn't talk to anybody about that I probably should have talked to people about.
No, like you know that I'm there to talk about anything, like outside what we're doing.
Yeah, well, we can talk. Let's just keep recording, and then we can talk about it after. So,
But
to
it's a good
change.
lesson for everybody else too. Like, don't like everyone has someone to talk to and like talk. You know,
Mhm.
it will really help.
Um,
But
to change pace a bit though. I guess the camera's over here, but I was originally gonna do. I don't know. Should I talk to the camera? It's not barely news. Who cares?
about these, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I was originally gonna do like another rucksack video because I got a new one. Um, yeah, okay, it's in the frame. So I have a new one, and I have some new gear. Well, it's not actually new gear. It's gear that should have been in the last video, but I'm still not ready. So eventually, it's gonna be a part 2 to my rucksack video where I go into what this is, all the gear. Because I had some people say like, "Hey, where's your food? Where's your water?" Like, they're all good points, but I just moved. I thought I was gonna be ready, but some of my boxes with some of my gear is missing. But I did find this. Somebody did ask about.
Can you see if it's in the?
Yep. So somebody did ask about water. I have a life straw. I have this, and then I have. So I want to do a video of trying to figure out how to use. I have this pump. So this is for an individual. My life straw is for an individual. But when we start doing off grid, your weekend with more people,
I'm excited.
that pump will clean enough water for at least 6 people.
There's also the small versions of the Berkey filters.
Yes.
And I
Those are
thought we
interesting
were
too.
talking to Emily today about like going on trips as in the summer, this summer as families, like taking our kids camping. And she's like, I really want to do proper camping where like on crown land with nothing.
I told Jen.
Poop on the forest with a
Same
shovel, that kind of thing.
Oh
and,
man.
And we were talking about like how do we get water? So like she's like, I'm not a camper.
Yeah. So that's good. It's good that you went there because I wanted to talk about this because you and I talked about this when we were hunting. I have this gear, never used it yet because I've seen people use the life straw in mud puddles. I've seen them use it everything, but I am so terrified. I've been so conditioned from classes like first aid and all this stuff like about beaver fever. I forget the proper term, like that's the slang term, but like the idea of pooping myself to death scares me.
I mean, you can always pass it through this and then boil it.
Yeah.
And if that makes you feel like better.
Like the argument is like, or not the argument, but they say you can like take some water from a. And I remember I grew up in the middle of nowhere, New Brunswick, and I remember my cousins. Even then, I was nervous, but I remember them scooping water up out of a moving stream that ran into a lake, a spring, and they would drink that, and they're all still alive today. But I don't know. There's some kind of block in my mind.
There's an old VHS tape that I just watched with Leigh and Vaughn last weekend. And I forgot about this moment when we were moving from Kazakhstan to Israel. We went to Almaty, which is like it was a capital of Kazakhstan, very big city, like millions of people. And me and my dad were climbing the mountain, like just outside the city, and there's a creek, like mountain water, not a creek. It was like the good,
like a spring,
yeah,
running down the mountain.
Running down the mountain.
Supposedly the cleanest, best water ever.
And my dad is just filling plastic bottles with water, and we're like going and we're drinking dog water.
Yeah.
And you can see the city, like big, tall, like high rises in the background.
Yeah, like I know this block in my brain is probably from a bunch of BS propaganda and stuff like that.
I mean,
because like I said, all my cousins are still alive, and I remember watching them drink from that spring. Yeah. And apparently, their parents did it. Their parents. Like, there's a lake in New Brunswick where pretty much everybody, like several generations of my family, just grew up.
There's a spring in Elmvale.
Oh yeah, people collect water there. What is wrong with me?
We collected water there, like too. Yeah.
But yeah, so this here says it will remove 99.99, like a whole bunch of nines of bacteria, E. coli's and brackets, removes a whole bunch of things that I can't pronounce, and reduces chlorine. Removes taste and odor.
So wait, so did you always have enough drinking water with you when you went camping? So you never went to like too long so that you have to
well there like so
water?
There's been like it's not smart, but like the coyote story. Since I brought it up, I'll elaborate. But so there's been times where I brought water, drank it all, should have went home but didn't. There's been times where I went hunting with no water, should have gone home, but didn't. So since I brought up the coyote story, this makes me sound so dumb, but this was years ago, and this is when I first started to learn how to hunt and everything. But I finished all day, one of the hottest days in summer, building a deck. And actually it was in September, but it was a oddly hot September day. And my boss at the time, we were building a deck, barely any water. We're driving home from Barrie, and he's like, hey, let's go duck hunting. He's like, I have my guns in the back. We have a canoe. Like, let's go duck hunting on our way home. So I'm like, sure, that's awesome. Didn't eat all day. Didn't drink any water. I didn't tell you this story yet?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I'm listening. I'm trying to remember. Did you tell me this? I can't remember.
Okay, so we get out there, we're paddling, and then all of a sudden I'm like,
wait,
I feel dizzy.
Okay, yes, I remember.
And then I'm in the front, he's in the back, and he's like watching me wobble. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, you're gonna tip us." Like, I put my paddle down, I put my hands down. I'm like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
It's like, what's? He's like, well, stop paddling, just relax. And I'm like, okay. And I start to pass out. And he's like splashing me with his paddle. Dude, you're going to tip us. You're going to tip us.
That's crazy.
And this guy was so hardcore about hunting.
He kept going.
He's like, okay, just lay in the bushes. He friggin' tosses my almost corpse into the friggin' reeds, bends them down so that I have shade, splashes me with some water, and he's like, okay, just wait here, relax, get some rest, and I'll come back. So I hear his gun shooting. He's still hunting. I'm like dying in the weeds.
He really wanted to go.
Yeah,
That's fine.
but then I'm like, he hears me start to like dry heave. I'm like, ugh. And he's like, okay, well, let's go.
Did he get anything?
He didn't get anything.
No.
So he paddles back, and we're trying to pack up our gear. I'm trying to stay conscious, and he unloads his gun. I unload my gun because I'm like, that's not safe. So he can't carry all this gear in the boat by himself. So he's like, you need to pull it together and help me get this stuff. Because I forgot to mention, before we even get the canoe to the water, because that's when I started to pass out, we had to go through all the bush with the canoe and all their gear. So that's probably what drained me, and then the paddling just finished me off. So he's like, you need to pull it together. We need to get back to the bush. And I think it was about probably a mile and a half back to the truck. So I'm like, okay, the sun's gone down at this point. And our guns are unloaded. I'm practically dead. What do we hear? Coyotes.
Nice.
Howling. And I'm like, uh-oh. And they get louder and louder. And I'm like, I'm dead. I can't fight.
Gonna lie down.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't fight anything off.
And the coyotes probably smell. A weak person
They
there.
probably sense that I'm like about to die. Like, oh, sweet, easy meal. And our shotguns are unloaded, so I'm just like, oh, on the back of my mind, like, this is the most embarrassing way to die ever. But eventually we get there. We throw stuff in. He loads the shotgun and hands it to me while he's packing up because it's getting louder and louder. So like, I don't know.
Stalking up on you, like they're.
I don't know. Like they're like, oh, like probably not. Like I was probably just I was barely conscious.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was getting scary and scary. He was keeping us cool, but at the same time, he's like, hold this shotgun while I pack up the truck. And
that's hunting. There's so many stories, probably.
Yeah. Well, it's and you think I'd learned my lesson, but you think I'd be more afraid of dehydration and dying than pooping myself to death. I don't know. I'm not really selling camping to people right now.
So you never, maybe, no, we'll sell it. So you never use tablets. I never use tablets. I used a pump like this. Well, this is not a pump, right?
No, that's just like a filter, water bottle filter. So I have tablets, and I bought.
I didn't like the tablets. I remember just a little bit drinking.
Bad taste.
Yeah.
So
disgusting.
Another, I can't remember which one. If I can remember, I'll give them credit. But a YouTuber, like prepper YouTuber, was talking about storing up on like juice crystals or something to get the flavor. So I bought iced tea crystals from like a food. It's a food place where I buy a lot of bulk prepping food, and I have some of the iced tea crystals because I'm like, eventually, or hopefully not, but eventually I might need to use these, and if it's gonna taste bad, like I want it to add these crystals and make it taste good. So I also use them to make my own electrolyte drinks for working out.
I think the smaller Berkey is awesome because it's empty.
Taste.
It's empty inside, so when you're camping, like you're packing things, you can put things in it, and then once you arrive to your campsite, take things out, put a bunch of water in it super quick, and it'll filter it out. And like military uses it.
Yeah, I've seen some videos of making your own too. I want to try that. But
I wouldn't trust them. Make yourself filter.
Well, you buy their filters.
But there's a bunch of people on Instagram and TikTok of like super hardcore outdoors people who like use their sock underwear and like straw,
but that's
a little bit of soil.
Get rid of the dirt and stuff, and then I don't know.
And then
I don't know. I'll try this, and if I live, which I will, but I have to get over that fear because I've had some close calls with dehydration because I'm just so stubborn.
Right.
Like that coyote one is just one story of almost like just being too close to dehydration. I'm like, oh yeah, which one's worse, dysentery or kidney damage from not enough water?
Pick your battle.
Yeah.
But have you ever come across a bear
What do you mean?
camping?
Hundreds of times.
Yeah.
We came across a bear golfing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
There's bears everywhere here. Just
I mean, I've seen them when I was camping for a week up north in Killarney,
Mhm.
and we did that long hike loop, and we've seen bears like swimming, and then we saw little cubs.
Yeah, I've never been like. I guess it's because it's all black bears here, but I've never come across a bear and been like afraid or like. I like for me for wolves and coyotes scare me more. I don't know.
They're smarter.
Yeah, like bears. Like every time I've come across a bear, I just look at it. He looks at me, and then we just go our way. But
There's a funny when I was biking across Canada, I was going downhill on the road, and I didn't even realize I was looking down, and then I look up, and there's a bear that just watched me pass by. It was the most cartoonish thing ever.
yeah,
He stands like, you know how there's that metal part on the side of the shoulder
yeah.
for like cars not to go in the ditch. So he's standing right on the outside, and I'm like biking on the shoulder going downhill, and he just looked like this.
Yeah.
Like I passed.
Yeah, like bears, like black bears, I get like almost a lazy vibe from them.
Yeah.
It's like
It's probably,
I'm not gonna use that much energy to like you look like you would be too hard to eat. But like coyotes and wolves I get like more like a meth head vibe.
there's probably plenty of food here. That's why they're lazy.
Like I feel like wolves or coyotes would just attack you just because. Like I've seen them attack and maul so many animals that I'm more like. But when I'm in the woods, I'm usually always armed because target shooting is fun.
What else is in that bag? Nothing?
No,
Is it full?
It's almost full. I got a lot more I got to put in here.
See, that's a nice bag that we need to
Yeah,
have a bag like that to give away.
yeah. Well, the black one from my first one, I'm gonna turn that into my get home bag. Have you ever heard of that before?
Get home bag?
Have you heard of a bug out bag?
No.
So a bug out bag it's
Like
a
a
prep.
super survival bag?
It's prepping stuff. So there's preppers specifically mostly I think mostly in the United States. There's Canadian preppers that do this too. Like they have this bug out idea that if crap gets so bad in their town, they're just gonna take their bag and get out of Dodge. So a get home bag is a similar idea where if you work far away, which I usually do, and like there's just several bad scenarios you could think of, like EMP attack. Like most of these bug out or get home ideas, they usually center around like really bad either terrorist attacks or war stuff like that. Grid down situations like power is out, but not because of a storm. So that black bag. And the reason why my first aid kit isn't on this one is because I'm keeping my first aid kit on the black one. I'm turning that into my get home bag. And this one's going to be my ruck/camping, like off-grid your weekend bag.
How much was that bag?
Super cheap. It was 130, 150 bucks. That's actually crazy cheap.
It is for that.
That's why like I gotta test it out and use it before I recommend it. Because I bought it from a company I've never heard of before. I tried to do a little bit of research. I didn't want something from China. However, I'm like, if I'm only going to spend 130 bucks, it's going to come from China.
It has the good supports on the sides too.
Yeah.
This is like
It looks
a good price.
It looks good. I haven't used it yet. When I was reading the reviews, it wasn't like, or the description and the reviews, it wasn't like, this good bag for you, this lasts a long time. So I'm like, okay, that's promising. It's written in proper English.
What was that ad that you read that sounded like that?
For plates. It was armor plates.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, on Amazon. Do not buy bulletproof plates from Amazon. I was reading through, not only were they holding it with 2 fingers, like you cannot hold a plate with 2 fingers. I don't care how strong you are. And it's like, this plate really strong. This plate hard break. This plate save life. And I was like, dear God, no. People might buy this.
It's the Chinese market that sells garbage protection for.
And then the reviews were hilarious too. There was one guy that I was like, hey, I like you. I think it was a generic name too. It was like Steve or something. It was like, do not buy this. This will get you killed. I'm like, thank you, Steve. And then the other ones were like, oh, this looks great. This looks like it will stop bullets. Or this looks bulletproof. I'm like, looks and is are 2 different things.
Imagine if the U.S. military is buying stuff for their milk, like from
Nah,
China.
they make their own, right?
Yeah.
Actually, funny video. Have you ever heard of Demolition Ranch?
Sounds
So
familiar.
he's a gun YouTuber that like out of all the gun YouTubers, he's pretty wholesome. Like my kids can watch his stuff.
Mm.
So my son and I were watching one video where he had two American made plates and a Russian made plate, and the Russians do not care about trauma. So like the plates were stopping everything, but your ribs would be broken. The American plates weren't stopping as much, but there was more cushioning. So the Russians like, who cares as long as it stops the bullets.
There's a bunch of Russian stuntmen for movies on Instagram that I see, and they're like so reckless. You watch the video and like they're probably gonna die by the end of this video.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, my favorite
Who does
my favorite thing I learned when I was in science class in high school, we were talking about like the American space program and the Russians. Like they were talking about how the Americans, when they come back, they land in the water and with parachutes and all this stuff. The Russians literally just bounce into the ocean. I was like, it's like, yeah, they're built different over there.
They're probably built like older generation of Americans
Yeah.
or like Canadians.
Before we started putting so much soy and sugar and canola
So
oil
much
in our
soy.
diets.
I thought soy and beans are the same. But
Well,
apparently
soy comes
they're
from a
like
bean.
different.
Soy comes from a
But
bean.
there's some kind of a difference there too.
What do you mean?
Like I could technically be okay with some beans, like digestive wise,
Oh yeah.
than other ones.
Well, yeah. Soy comes from a bean, and soy isn't particularly good for men. I don't think it's good for anybody,
But
but
what about red kidney beans? Is that because they're not
different.
soy?
They're different. They're
See.
different beans, right? There's black beans. There's several different types of beans. Personally, I don't like any of them.
Put them in one. Like
Personally, I don't
everything
like
is
any
soy.
of them. Pretty much all of them give people gas. Like
I think so.
if you watch Carnivore MD, he talks about like the and other guys too. They talk about like some of the defensive chemicals in them because they don't want to be eaten because they're technically seeds, right? Like the plant grows from that, so it causes digestional stress.
Maybe they're like a medicine thing. If
But-
you want to shit your pants, they're like a laxative.
But no, it's like so. Like some of the things he talks about, I just like a lot of things I disagree. But at the same time, like there's a lot of good properties to these things, and then there's like the bad ones. But like it's just like, what are you looking for, right? But when it comes to soy and it comes to all of these things attacking testosterone, like it's funny because social media, like when you get on an algorithm that knows what to send you and knows I'm all into fitness and stuff like that, so I keep getting all these things about stuff that lowers your testosterone, and I was blown away by all these things. There's so many things, like the soaps, shampoo, like everything we put on it in our body pretty much. And if you know anything about testosterone, I like so like keep everything coherent. Try to I'm going everywhere, but so when I'm scrolling through, I'm getting fitness stuff about how everything's lowering our testosterone, and also I'm getting stuff recommended about politics because those are the two things I'm all about right now: is fitness and politics.
That's why I brought spiritual books for the podcast to
balance
that
me out. Yeah. So I put two and two together. I was like, and this might make me sound like an idiot, but like all these things are like, okay, taxes are being raised here while politicians are getting more money at the same time. They're raising taxes on us and then paying themselves more, right?
How does that work?
And then I scroll to the next thing. It's like, this is lowering all the men's in the West testosterone. And I'm like, it makes sense. Because 100 years ago, if politicians were doing this, they would have cut their heads off. They would have hung them. Like, that's what people did to politicians that were doing everything the politicians are doing today. They wouldn't have pulled that 100, 200 years ago because there'd be revolutions. There'd be people, there would be men and women in the streets being like, heck no. Like, apparently, and like, see, in Europe,
What's going on in France right now?
well, that's what I was going to say. So in Europe, they're more hardcore about what goes in their food. Subway in Europe is banned from using a lot of things in their bread and their ingredients that they're allowed to use in the United States.
I could see that.
So, yeah, like France, they're trying the same crap in France that they're trying in Canada, the United States, but the French are like, that's enough. You had enough. The French have a long history of being like, hey, enough of this. We're getting rid of you.
Even though I went to Subway in Moscow, like not went, I just opened the door and it smelled exactly like the Subway here, and I closed the door. I didn't go in. So maybe they use the same, but like I could totally see like Italy or some
Well,
other
yeah.
parts in Europe using different ingredients.
My mother and I think my wife too, and some other like women are they seem to be more focused on ingredients in food. I've noticed that, at least in my life. Because I know
I
you and I will cave a lot, and then like your wife and my
I
wife will be like, "Why are you guys eating that?"
I could definitely cave, yeah,
Yeah.
but I tend to look, especially in the past like 5 years.
Hmm.
There's definitely been like many
But yeah, yeah.
years in my life where I didn't look at
I,
it, just
I
ate whatever.
I brought that up though because you said Italy. My like all the women in my life, they know they buy all their pastas from Italy because they don't have all these chemicals and like they don't spray their wheat with stuff. And they would go on and on about that. Like they would tell me, "Oh, we only should buy our pasta from Italy." And then the other day, did I tell you this?
No.
The other day when I was scrolling, or no, actually a friend sent me it. Italy, somewhere in Italy, they're planning on starting to make pasta with bugs.
Oh right, you did tell me.
So I was like, "Ha!" Not like I shouldn't be happy. I should be like, "This is terrible." Like no matter where we
I
go,
don't
we
think
can't use.
Italians, like true Italians, are gonna allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one small
You think they'll
company.
go the French way and just start burning things
I
down?
think they will.
to
I think Italians will definitely burn.
keep our pasta
Yeah.
proper.
I totally think that that's what they'll do.
Really, that's how what we need to do now, just to be heard, is just start burning things down.
Probably, man.
Oh well, like I don't know what's
Probably.
going on with Canada, like what like or what's going on with Canadians. Like, why do
No, we always come back to this.
we just complain? Canadians just complain. We talk about what our government's
We
doing.
just have to do.
We bitch. We yell. We slam our hands on the table, and then we go do our thing. And then Trudeau and the Liberals and all the conservatives too. I can't stand them. Like all of our government just keeps doing the same crap.
It's funny that when we say that that's Canadian, it's even crazy that in our mind that's what Canadians do, because Canadians that built Canada were not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
They were not like that.
Well, to be fair, all like Western European, United, like something's changed.
Yep. So, gotta bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah. What is it?
Make
Is it all?
Canada-
Is it all the soy in our food? Is it all
Make
chemicals in
Canada great
our
again.
shampoo and soap? Or it's also it's definitely cultural too, though.
I think it's whenever people start living in large cities, they become weak. They stop living closer to nature. They don't realize how hard life actually is, and they start focusing on dumb shit.
Well,
Do your kids listen to the podcast or no?
yeah, they haven't one in
Alright.
a while, but
Because lately I've been more in the mood to say F the F word.
I swore a few
swear,
times
yeah.
this episode too, and I'm like,
There's just the mood.
I've been backsliding on so many things. I had sugar. I've been having a lot of sugar lately. That's probably another reason why I'm in such a bad mood.
I'm gonna start a podcast with Leia. It'll be for kids.
Yeah,
And we'll do it in English, we'll do it in French and Russian.
that's how.
And we're gonna interview other kids.
That's how you really grow something too. Like
Yeah.
I remember hearing about the reason why PewDiePie exploded like he did is because he was bilingual and he was started in he was in
Swedish?
Sweden. He was in Sweden, but he was speaking in English, so he was getting a larger audience across Europe.
But I just want a good podcast for kids. I don't think there's one that like where kids are. Every podcast that I've researched for kids is too childish. I want something that's like parents or like talking to them like they're adults,
That's the
making it
biggest,
silly, but also at the same time making it funny, silly, but like talking to them
that's
about
the
real
biggest
stuff.
thing problem I have with a lot of children's media right now is like so
It's too cartoonized.
yeah,
too,
everything
like,
is stupid. I was like,
Yeah.
this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
like most videos that are targeted at kids. They make it so
Oh,
dumb, dumbifying.
I was doing work for a client that had their kids in the room I was working in, which was a bad idea on so many levels, but also I had to listen to their like so they would put YouTube on and just leave and just the non-stop just dumb mind-numbing stuff. I'm like the kids are not learning anything here. They're literally just
Yeah, yeah. That's
and like
what
they
it
were
is.
sitting like that too. I'm like you're not learning anything. I remember at least when I was a kid like a lot of the shows that they would teach us stuff.
Yeah, that's what I want to. That's why I want to do another podcast where it's just for kids.
Yeah,
like
like-
kids, other interviewing other kids. There's so many parents who post their kids like playing tennis and they're like really good at it. I want Leia or me to like contact them and ask them questions like how how many hours a day do you practice, or how many hours a week, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
What's your sleep schedule? Like, how do you at 8 years old? There's a ton of 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are practicing guitar, or like they're good at something. I want kind of Leia to start asking those questions, interviewing them. It's good for her to learn how to communicate, how to ask questions, and it'll be fun for other kids to listen to. I think.
I got Caleb into archery. That was interesting. So I was listening to a podcast, a Joe Rogan podcast, where he had, I forget the guy's name, famous bow hunter. His son,
Cameron
16.
Haynes.
Nope,
No.
nope. Because I wouldn't remember Cameron Haynes. No, so his son is 16 and holds like crazy records for archery.
Oh, okay. I remember that podcast.
Yeah, and he was saying like as soon as his son could stand, he had a bow in his hand.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, I'm 5 years behind, Caleb. Here's your bow. So we were practicing for a while, and he was like, he resists me on a lot of things, and I have to just be like, he's our firstborn, so he kind of acts like if you don't hold his hand with everything, he doesn't want to do it. And but I just no, I'm like, dude, if like I told him, I put a can on a shelf. It's like a little, so it's like a little toy bow with like the sticky end.
Okay, yeah.
I said, if you knock that can off, I'll give you from this distance, I'll give you $1. From this distance, I'll give you $2. And he's trying to fill his piggy bank. And this is like, so it's funny too. He's trying to fill his piggy bank because he wants to buy gold and silver. So I'm like, okay, you're listening to me too much. Listen to me about this stuff about archery and just worry about the economy stuff when you're older. So he's like, I'm like, he wants to fill his piggy bank, so he's okay. So he would practice and practice. He would get frustrated, but eventually he started doing it. Now he loves it. So I told him now. So I keep moving the distance back, and I said, if you can hit it from, I can't remember how I measured it, but from this distance, consecutively 5 times in a row, I'll buy you a better bow. And we'll just keep doing that until he gets like a proper, like he'll be older, but when he'll get a proper bow. And now we have a bigger yard, so I'm able to get he's able to hit it 3 times in a row now. So I said just 2 more times. And
I bought a recurve, like the traditional bow from Decathlon. It's like a new French store.
Oh yeah.
That came to Canada, and it's pretty big, but it's for kids, and it shoots the same like long arrows. I don't know how long the ones that Caleb is doing, but these are long, and they also have the sticky thing.
Yeah.
And it goes pretty far. Like I'm kind of scared to give it to Leia.
But yeah, it's funny. Like
it doesn't go that far, but it goes like fast and strong. It feels like.
Years ago I took one of my like training arrows, like practice arrows. I took the end off and just taped like a cushiony, like foamy thing on it, and I gently pulled it back a little bit, just as a joke, to shoot my mom in the leg with it. And it's still, even with that, I was like, okay, I probably should have tested on somebody stronger, like my brother, because she to this day is still mad. Like when she listens to this, she will be like, oh yeah, I remember that, you jerk.
What's happening in France? Is that barely news?
I think I have something for that. I'm like, honestly, I'm just so focused on my hippo story.
Okay, yeah.
No. I can.
Should we do that then? Should we switch over to barely news?
Yeah, we can do that.